Hello everyone, today I'll be talking about a reimagining of one of my most favourite games ever made. So, this is Star Fox, more specifically Star Fox Zero. Now, full disclosure, this is the special title screen you get for getting all the medals in the game. I have 100% completed this game, and have sunk in about 30 hours of playtime since it came out, which was about a couple of weeks ago as of this recording. Earlier I did a Lylat Wars video where I did a single playthrough and then commentated over it, and I'm going to do a similar thing with this game. It's going to be a single playthrough of Star Fox Zero, while I talk about what I like about this game, and to compare it to the game that this is like a successor to, which is Star Fox 64. To begin with, we're going to look at the prologue. Unlike in Star Fox 64, it doesn't start up every time you start the new game. It starts up once you start the game for the first time, and then if you want to see it again, you have to select Prologue in the menu. This basically takes the place of the text scroll from Star Fox 64, and it gives you the backstory of the game, you know, and the events that happen before the game begins. So, Star Fox started off on the Super Nintendo, and then they made Lylat Wars, which was a remake of the SNES game. And this is essentially a remake of the N64 game. It reboots the story, but while the N64 version added some new plot elements and characters from the previous game, this game doesn't. It pretty much carries over all the old characters and everything pretty much intact from Star Fox 64. It is the same story, same characters. This whole backstory that was new in Star Fox 64 about James McCloud and the old Star Fox team is carried over here. And I think that's a bit of a shame. I wish they kind of expanded upon the old story a bit more, or did something different entirely, because I think that would have given this game a bit more of its own identity rather than just being the Star Fox 64 successor. I've also seen complaints from Star Fox fans saying they wish it was a sequel to the previous Star Fox games, as in a continuation of the old story. And there are two issues I have with that. Basically, the first thing, it's been 10 years since Star Fox Command, the previous game. First of all, the people who are still going to remember that are probably going to be in a minority, and I think it makes more sense to just reboot the story, which would be... It'll be easier to take in for newcomers to the series. They don't have to know this entire backlog of, like, 5 games in order to understand the whole plot. So making a reboot makes sense in that regard. Now, the other issue I have with having a sequel instead of a reboot is... Are you fucking insane? Did any of you actually play Star Fox Command? The story was bloody awful! Absolutely atrocious writing, all this fanfiction tier drivel, with the game having the absurdity to have 9 different endings. 9 endings, all of which could have been canon. What do you do with that? Yeah, so I think a reboot makes more sense in that regard.
Attack on our once peaceful capital. Now's our chance to honor my father's legacy and restore the Star Fox name. You hear that, Andross? We're coming for you!
So in this playthrough we are going through arcade mode. This is where you play all the levels in a sequence up until you get to the final level, trying to get for the best high score, but also now the game records your time. So you can try speedrunning this game if you want to, and it's actually quite fun to do so. unlike Lylat Wars, this game actually records the high score for each individual route you take, because each route is actually quite different from one another. They're not quite the same as in Star Fox 64, where you always do like 7 missions. This one, the number of missions you take actually change depending on what route you take. You can do a short route, you can do a longer route, which is worth more points. But I guess for a fairer comparison, it compares it to other runs on that same route, rather than a general scoreboard.
Uh-oh, looks like trouble down there.
This is the introduction to the Corneria level, which is sort of similar to the introduction of the Corneria level in Lylat Wars, where Fox says, "Check your G-diffuser system!" But this one has an interactive element to it, because you can still look around and aim using the cockpit view. The motion controls are a new concept introduced in this game, and they are something that do take a bit of getting used to, and it seems they're quite aware of that. And here I have to point at each teammate to actually have them speak and have them check their diffuser system. And that's kind of to help you get used to these controls, or to help you get in the mood of things if you've played the game before.
Come on, last one to Corneria is a monkey's uncle.
Like, what? The very first thing that happens when you start up the game for the first time is you're immediately put into the tutorial mode. You don't even get to see the title screen until you start doing the training missions. It's a pretty brief training mission, and I guess it's kind of understandable why they need to put that in there, because these motion controls are such an alien concept and will probably take some getting used to for most people. For now though, we are in Corneria, and it's kind of similar to the Lylat Wars version. It starts off in pretty much a similar way. You have groups of enemies approaching you, and as you arrive on this vast ocean. Even the battle formations the ships fly in is pretty much the same.
Seen anything like that? Everybody, stay alert!
Now, here's a weird thing that I'm not sure was a good idea. They spawn enemies behind you, and they shoot you from off-screen. And that happening in the first level seems a bit of a dick move to me. I'm not sure if they should have done that.
Corneria City now.
But yeah, generally it's kind of similar to the first level of the Star Fox 64 game.
Get back here!
And looking at the screen, you'd be forgiven for thinking that this game is pretty much exactly the same as Star Fox 64. And for the most part, you'd be right. This is more or less more Star Fox 64. What differentiates it, though, are the new mechanics. And I'm not even strictly talking about the motion controls here. I think some of the mechanics are an improvement over Star Fox 64. I think in some ways this game surpasses the original. As you can see, the basics are more or less the same. You can shoot with laser guns, pew, you can charge your shots and lock onto enemies, and the charge shot takes out multiple enemies, and the more enemies you take out in a single charge shot, the more points you get. Here you can see the cockpit view, and look, it's actually good. Star Fox 64's cockpit view was a mess. It was like you could see the cockpit, which limited your viewpoint. If you tilted your ship or did a barrel roll, the camera would spin around and you wouldn't be able to see anything, but here it all makes sense. It's all steady, and you can see a rough guide as to where your ship's positioned. It's all great, it's wonderful, and you can aim well with it. Another thing that's different from Star Fox 64 is how the laser power-up system works. As usual, you start with single lasers, then upgrade to double lasers, and then eventually hyper lasers. But if you pick up a laser power-up when you already have the maximum upgrades, you get hit +3. So there's an incentive to collecting the laser power-ups even if you have the maximum power. You get more points.
We're taking the coastline. Keep up if you can.
A new feature of the hyper lasers is that they can lock on twice as well, which is cool. It means more bonus points. And yeah, here's the alternate route. You have to turn into walker mode and walk over a button to open the secret door and change the direction you go. Oh no, we have to rescue that ship. It's being attacked by spider drones. The drones can only be destroyed by hitting the big red dots, which is their weak spot. And to do that, you actually have to use the aiming motion controls here. Here's an example of having to actually use the cockpit view to look down the sights and aim with precision.
Thanks, Star Fox. What's that?
It appears to be a teleporter. My readings suggest enemy activity on the other side.
Like the one at the colony, huh? Better check it out. I'm going in.
So that's the secret portal, which will take us to a different mission. It actually ends the level prematurely. As you can see, I'm nowhere near my usual high score, and that's because if I didn't go through the secret portal, the level would have gone on for a bit longer before I fought the boss that I would have fought. But instead, we're going straight to a different bonus boss fight.
Rob, where am I?
Unable to pinpoint your location due to lingering effects from the space-time warp.
There's no way you can beat us in the water! It's payback time!
So here is the first boss we are facing. It's basically a harder version of the first boss of the level. We would have fought an easier version of this, but this one sort of makes things a bit more complicated. It's basically a battle station where its weak points are the giant radar dishes things on the top. If we didn't go through the secret portal, we would have fought a boss similar to this, except it would have been way easier. This one has more satellites to destroy, has enemies that try to shoot you down as well. The other one didn't have any ads. And also you have to keep an eye out on the fact that it has this electromagnetic shield that expands every now and again. And if you're caught in that, it does way loads of damage and you might die. And this is actually quite a hard boss. This is again where you have to use the cockpit view, because the third-person camera is actually locked to the boss. You are stuck in target mode in this boss fight. Target mode is basically where the camera is actually locked onto the enemy, and it helps you locate enemies and helps you see what you're doing. And in this case, it's kind of useful because you need to keep an eye on your cockpit view, which is usually on your gamepad, and then you have to look on the screen just to make sure that it's not, to make sure the battle station isn't firing giant laser beams at you or, releasing its mega shield, which does lots of damage. The giant laser beams are actually done in such a way to discourage players from flying directly into the gun. You basically have to be sort of strafing it in order to not get killed by the giant laser beams. And that means that you have to get used to shooting sideways using the motion controls. If you play this boss fight, in the same way you would play Star Fox 64 by, flying directly into whatever you're aiming at, you're going to get hit. So you better get used to those motion controls. And I guess the motion controls are probably the thing that'll either make or break this game for you. In my opinion, I think they're great. I mean, I don't deny that, having conventional controls would probably be simpler, but the motion controls aren't super imprecise like Wiimote waggling or using the Kinect to do specific tasks. It's basically using the gyroscope of the gamepad to tilt and change the direction of your crosshairs. That's the only motion control element there, and the rest of the game is controlled using conventional buttons and, control sticks, which I actually think is a good control scheme. And getting used to aiming down the TV screen and shooting targets precisely is actually really fun. Getting used, learning to get good with these controls, I think is actually part of the fun of this game. Now, I got used to the controls, but, I understand that not everyone's the same. Not everyone is as great as I am, and not everyone's going to have the same experience, and some people just have trouble multitasking, So I think Nintendo have made a mistake here in not giving us the option to actually turn them off. It seems like a lot of this was forced, and I think that was a mistake, definitely a mistake on Nintendo's part. There's not even an option screen in this game, which surprised me. There's not even an option to turn the motion controls off, or to adjust the sensitivity, or anything like that. There's a setting you can have so that the motion controls are only on when you're pressing the fire button, but that doesn't really help for people who don't like the motion controls in the first place. I think even giving us the option to adjust the sensitivity would have gone a long way to alleviating a lot of the problems people have with this game. And right now, this boss has locked us into target mode, where the third-person camera is locked directly facing the boss. They should have had it so that the camera focuses on the boss once you lock onto it, because otherwise it's just a bit dumb. I think you should have been able to see where you're going in a vehicle mode as well. Not being able to see where you're going in the vehicle mode isn't a big deal because you have the gamepad screen, unless you're playing co-op mode. There is actually a co-op mode in this game, where one person flies the Arwing using a classic controller, and the other person has to aim using the gamepad. And in this situation, the pilot just has to eat shit because he can't see where he's going, and he can't see the TV screen to actually, look at where his ship is flying. So he just has to hope he's not flying into something. Not many bosses force the camera to be like this, but yeah, it's kind of silly, really.
You beat us again? I'm never gonna live this down.
You got that right.
I love that line. That's such a great line. This game has some really great dialogue. Seriously, it's great. Now this boss fight is actually its own separate side mission, and if you don't play it in regular arcade mode, it doesn't even record your hits. It's primarily looking at your time. The difference between main game and arcade mode is that in main game, you don't have to do things in a specific order, you can just pick a level and play it. I think that's actually a good feature to have, to be able to pick any level. In Star Fox 64, you have to play the game from start to finish in a single playthrough. And that's great for an arcade-style experience, but if you've only got a couple of minutes to spare, you can't exactly sit down and do an entire hour-long playthrough. So this game does give you the option of just playing through a single level whenever you see fit.
Where am I? What are you doing here? No one messes with Uncle Andross's plans.
Oh snap, it's Andrew Oikony. This is an on-rails level, and actually quite a short and challenging level, but you can potentially get a lot of points here. As you can see, the general trick you want to do is to shoot enemies with charge shots. There is actually a new mechanic regarding the charge shots though, which I think is great. Normally if you just fire a charge shot, you know, it fires this sort of homing green projectile which has this explosion, and enemies that caught in the explosion gets damaged and you get bonus points. However, if you fire off a shot the very moment it locks on, you get a blue shot which has a larger blast radius, and you can catch more enemies in that, which means you get more bonus points. And I think that's actually great. It actually sort of makes it fun to lock onto something and then release the shot the moment it locks on, because you have to get your timing down to hopefully catch more enemies and get more points. There is another way of earning bonus points now. If you shoot an enemy and they start crashing, if you shoot them while they're on fire and falling, you gain an extra hit. Like here, you see I'm getting hit +1s for shooting the enemies that are currently crashing. So if you get a good lock-on shot, you can quickly shoot into the crowd of crashing enemies to get even more points, and I think that's great. And here you can see the benefit that having 2 lock-ons has. Because I'm firing 2 lock-on shots, I'm getting like even more of the bonus points from the resulting splash damage. And basically I think this scoring system is generally a great improvement from the original Lylat Wars. The original scoring system was a very simple concept, and that's fine. But I think there's a sort of a natural development. Without overcomplicating it, I think it adds just an extra layer of complexity that makes it a more deep and engaging experience, in my opinion. And of course, the old Star Fox 64 trick of shooting an unlocked-on charge shot near an enemy and using the splash damage to kill them for extra points still applies here. It's actually easier to do in this game now, because the gyro controls actually give you more precise aiming, so you can more accurately aim near an enemy. And if you're wondering, Andrew's actually invincible during that boss fight. You can't actually kill him, you just have to chase him down. Anyway, that was quite a short level, although I did miss quite a few enemies, so I think I do need some more practice on this one.
What was Andrew up to all the way out here?
General Pepper has called an emergency meeting in Sector Beta. We must proceed to the designated rendezvous site immediately.
That's a weird bit of intrigue that they put in for no real reason. Like, Fox goes, "What was Andrew doing way out here?" You never find out. Like, he was just kind of hanging out there with all his mates, and he just showed up randomly through the teleporter and just messed everything up. He wasn't really doing anything. Anyway, as Rob says, we need to head over to Sector Beta. We are heading back towards the main story path.
The Great Fox requires your assistance in order to safely navigate this asteroid field. Please give the Great Fox defensive support.
I'm on it.
This is another sort of quick bonus mission. It's not really a full level, it's sort of a quick sequence. Like the previous level, that wasn't like a full level, that's sort of a short on-rail section. Unlike Star Fox 64, which had multiple pathways that were all sort of consistent, this one basically has one main story path, more or less, that's canon, whereas everything around it is sort of these bonus missions, and the path you take usually involves skipping the main missions to do these bonus missions. So this mission's fairly self-explanatory. You have to defend the Great Fox by shooting the rocks before they hit him. Pretty simple stuff. And look how easily I'm aiming with these motion controls. I just don't see what the problem everyone was having with. Look how precise I'm being. Bam! 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 Easy peasy. So yeah, as you can see, the controls work. Just takes a bit of getting used to is all. Seriously, I don't think they're as bad as everyone says they are. So I said that the game has sort of this single main story path, like a main path that you go on. It's the path you kind of have to take on your first playthrough because the game sort of railroads you down a single path the first time you play the game, because a lot of the alternate routes are actually blocked off until you complete the game once, or you play the level at least once. And for example, in Corneria, that secret pathway you open by turning into a walker and then going over that button, you can't actually turn into a walker at first. You have to wait until Sector Alpha, which is the second level after that. Then once you unlock the ability to transform, you can then go back to there and unlock the secret route. Most of the other missions around it are sort of the shorter bonus missions, and it seems like that they don't quite take place in the same continuity as the rest of the story. I mean, we just fought the Aquarosa Boss, and the guy there was like, "You beat us again? I'm never gonna live this down." But we hadn't actually met him yet. We meet him, you know, in the other paths, so it seems that we've already completed the game once, which just seems to imply that there is, you know, one main path that actually makes sense in terms of the story. Anyway, as you can see, this mission has kind of gone into a clusterfuck because now enemies are everywhere and drones are attaching themselves to the Great Fox, and I have to shoot them off before the Great Fox dies. Actually, there's a nice little detail here. If you fly by the cockpit and look into the window, you can actually see Rob64 standing there, and he's inside a little cockpit and everything. They actually modded the inside of the ship, which is nice. And as you can see, if you blow up the missiles before they reach the Great Fox, you don't have to deal with the drones, and they give you more points. So if you're going for the high score, which I was, and I failed utterly, you have to shoot down all the missiles before they get to the Great Fox, and before they deploy all their stupid drones. Actually, sometime after recording this, I did find that a good strategy is just to transform into the Walker and sit on top of the nose of the Great Fox, because all the threats actually come directly from the front of the Great Fox. So if you just stand at the front and shoot everything as it arrives, you actually have a pretty good vantage point. Like, those missiles spawn above and in front of the Great Fox, so you just have to listen out to Rob when he notifies you that the missiles are spawned.
The asteroid field has been successfully navigated.
So yeah, nowhere near my previous high scores. There is a medal score for this level. Like in Star Fox 64, every stage has like a score you have to reach to earn a medal. For this stage, it's 100 hits. Unlike in Star Fox 64 though, once you've earned the medal, you don't get it again once you hit the medal score. Instead, the game records your personal high score, and that's what it compares you to when you play the stage again.
Reclaiming this sector could shift the war in our favor. Join with our squadron and launch a counterattack.
Understood.
Anyway, we're back onto the main story path now, so this is one of the main story missions.
It's as bad as it looks, Star Fox. We need your help.
Come on, let's give our boys some support.
Hey, Fox, you made it!
Bill, is that you? It's been a while.
We've got a fleet to save if you're interested.
Can you two save the cute banter for after we finish the job?
Yeah, let's get to work.
So this mission is all range mode. And here's Bill returning again.
Keep it together.
And yeah, you can see this is a nice little throwback to the Katina level. And our job here is to destroy the 4 battleships.
Husky unit, provide backup.
Each one of these ships gives you a hit plus 10 bonus, but the bonus seems to be dependent on how much damage you do to it. The other teammates are attacking the other ships, and if you're not quick enough, then you won't get the full bonus because they do, you know, you didn't do the full amount of damage. So you have to be quick before your teammates destroy it.
One more for me!
Hey! What the... Pepe just stole my kill! He took all the points for finishing it off! What a... Yeah, that's not fair! That would happen in Star Fox 64 as well. on the Sector Z mission where you have to destroy the missiles before they hit the Great Fox, you have your teammates shooting the missiles, and if they're the ones that finish it off, well, too bad, you don't get any points.
Look alive! It's time for the main event!
Now, I still have full control over my ship during those little cutscenes because the cockpit view is still available on my gamepad screen, so while the main screen shows that cutscene, I can still control the ship and, you know, destroy this battleship that just spawned.
Cannon ready. Count down. 3, 2, 1. Fire!
What? How?
We didn't even scratch it. That's some shield.
Is that the best you could do? Then you'll really enjoy this. All through. Brace for impact.
I'm through the enemy shield.
Yeah, I kind of spoiled any kind of drama that shield had.
How did he get in? Shoot him down.
Like, oh snap, they've got a giant shield, what are we gonna do? Oh, okay, Fox
I
cards on it.
analyzed the ship. The shield generator
Normally
is on
you
that
have to have this
unit
cannon aim at you and, you know, lure it into shooting you and having the cannon make a hole in the shield so you can fly through it. But the cannon immediately fires off as part of that scripted cutscene and you can fly straight through the hole during the cutscene. So that's how you do it quickly. I also like how the guy inside the ship is pretty much exactly the same person you meet in Area 6. The guy Cayman was talking to. We didn't need to destroy all those cannons on the side, but doing so gives us a bonus medal. For now though, we need to deactivate the shield, and to do that we need to go inside the ship in walker mode. When you first transform into walker mode, it is a bit jarring, because it controls pretty much completely differently to the Arwing. You do have to kind of get used to this new kind of gameplay style, pretty much instantly once you transform.
Enemy shield neutralized. Preparing to fire the main cannon. All units get clear. Forget the countdown. Let them have it.
Thanks for the save, Starfox!
I do like that little attention to detail there. The game normally gives you a countdown to get out of the ship before they blow it up, but if you get out really quickly they just say, forget the countdown, let them have it! And then it just shoots them straight away, it's great.
Hold up! We've got incoming!
Are you gonna hug all the fun?
Cat, what are you doing here?
Now, is that any way to greet a lady?
This is Star Fox. State your purpose.
Just checking in. So you're friends with Falco? Fancy that. Oh, hey!
Fox, eyes up top! Starfox!
I don't know why this mission introduces all the characters at once.
I can almost smell the reward money.
Anyone who defies Andross has to answer to me!
Alright, so it's our battle with Star Wolf. This is, again, a sort of all-range dogfight. Now, this is kind of where you have to use the lock-on feature to use the target view to find where the Star Wolf team are. As you can see, unlike in Star Fox 64, it doesn't give you a minimap to find where the enemy is. Instead, you have to press the ZL button, the left trigger, and that will lock on to the nearest sort of significant target. In this case, it will be the Star Wolf team. And that helps you find where they are. So you look at the TV screen to locate where they are, using the lock-on feature, and then you use the cockpit view mode to actually aim precisely and shoot them.
My beautiful reward!
The game does give you a helpful indicator to find your teammates when they're in trouble though, so that's good.
Thanks, Fox. I thought they had
Help, Uncle Andross!
Playtime is over, Star Fox.
Watch out!
That's the big bad wolf himself. With a voice that sounds a lot more like his Star Fox Assault character, as opposed to the original depiction in Lylat Wars. That's fine by me. Star Fox Assault Wolf was a pretty cool dude.
Thanks for the friendly fire, Fox!
It's worth noting that a lot of the original cast came back from Star Fox 64 to voice their characters in this game.
Fox, are you trying to get us all killed?
Kinda busy here, Bill. Anyway, Mike West comes back to voice Fox McCloud.
Keep it
And that surprises me, because Mike West voices Fox in the recent Smash Brothers game. And in Smash Brothers, Fox McCloud sounds awful. He's just like... That's him. That's Mike West in Smash Brothers 4. In this game, though, he actually sounds good. He puts on a good performance for the most part. If you listen to that sort of introductory text crawl where he's narrating it, he sounds good. Seems like an improvement over the voice acting in Star Fox 64, although that's not saying much.
Come on.
I do like that cool cinematic effect when they fly past you. Sometimes it adds a slow-mo effects and they say something. That's pretty cool. Now on the other hand, I'm not a big fan of Peppy's voice. I think he's trying too hard to put on the southern accent. He kind of sounds like a young man trying to do an old person voice, rather than someone who's genuinely an older person.
Is that the best you can do?
Shoot!
Peppy!
I've grown tired of this.
You've done enough. Let the reinforcements handle the rest.
So yeah, because we didn't defeat Wolf in time, Peppy got shot down and he's going down to planet Titania. If we managed to defeat Wolf before the time limit ran out, then we'd go a different path and go to Fortuna instead.
Rob, can you get a log
This of
on
course
Peppy's
is the same
location?
thing as in Lylat Wars, where you have to destroy the Sector X boss before it punches Slippy in the face and he crash lands in Titania. Now I deliberately didn't save Peppy because going down this route actually gives you more points and is actually the longer route. If you defeat Wolf and go to Fortuna, that's actually a shortcut to the final level. Unlike in Star Fox 64, you can't actually choose which path you take. Even if you get the mission accomplished thing, you could choose to go to the lower path if you wanted to, but in Star Fox Zero's arcade mode, you just immediately go to the next level without any choice in the matter. And if you're wondering about Kat, if we went to Fortuna, we would have met Kat again. She appears in that level, but for now, in this playthrough, you only see her once, and she literally shows up for no reason at all. She's like, "Hi everyone, I'm here!" And then that's it.
We must press on, no matter the cost.
We're not leaving Peppy behind.
Good luck.
Landmaster deployed.
Oh boy, it's the Landmaster tank. This is actually a really fun mission. Partly because I actually really like how the tank controls. Being able to shoot independently of where you are moving makes a lot of sense in a tank, so this actually feels quite natural using the motion controls to aim. If you remember when I was playing the Macbeth level in Lylat Wars, I was talking about how the sensitivity on aiming up and down in a tank felt a bit weird. But here it just feels fine. You just move the gamepad up and down and it feels kind of natural. You aim pretty precisely too if you use the gamepad screen. The green crosshairs still aren't particularly accurate. I'll probably explain a bit more about that later, but you know, you can just look at the TV screen and aim precisely and it's great.
The Landmaster fires missiles when you charge your laser. You can lock on to 3 different enemies when the laser's charged.
There's another one of those spider drones that you have to hit their weak spot accurately in order to damage them. You don't have to use the cockpit view to aim accurately for the most part. You can sort of play most of this level using the regular, vehicle view, but it does help. It does make it a lot easier, and adjusting to the changing camera for more accurate shooting will actually benefit you in the long run if you're aiming for those high scores. For some reason, those bits of debris that land there count as a hit, so it's worth shooting them for more points.
How's the Landmaster, Fox?
Personally, I prefer the air.
Ha! Nice meme, Falco. Anyway, as you can see, the Landmaster has a new feature where it can transform into the Gravmaster. Generally, you don't really need to use it that much. In fact, I generally prefer staying in tank mode because you move a bit slower, and that means you can shoot more things. You do need the Gravmaster to be able to access an alternate route on this level, but we're not going there today. Ha! Nice meme, Slippy!
Whoa, look out!
Don't get sloppy because Peppy's not here. That's a rookie mistake.
As you can see, the Landmaster fires missiles instead of the regular charge shot when you charge a laser. They act in more or less the same way, except you can lock onto 3 targets at once, which is actually pretty cool. Here's an enemy that is kind of annoying. When he grabs you, he actually rotates your tank side to side and you can't control its direction, so you have to use the gamepad view to aim at its weak spot. Anyway, yeah, being able to lock on 3 times means you get more bonus points if you fire into a group. As you can see, there were 6 tanks that came over that horizon, but I got hit +9 because I fired 3 charge shots into the group. And hurting an enemy with like multiple explosions results in more points somehow. It's kind of hard to explain. I kind of get how it works, but it's kind of hard to explain in the yeah. Now I guess as a form of balancing, because you can lock onto 3 things at once, you don't get the blue charge shot when you release a shot just as soon as you lock on. So it's less about firing at just the right time and more about locking onto the right targets in the group. You can see these 4-legged robot enemies. They take a lot of hits to destroy, but you can destroy the rock pillars and have the boulder crash on them, and that gives you 6 points. So it's worth doing. Destroying the rock structures themselves also gives you points as well.
There's a signal coming from up ahead.
Is it Peppy?
Oh, what a relief!
You can see off to the side there is a portal. If you fly towards that using the Gravmaster, you can go into the portal and gain access to the alternate route and the secret level. This is a notable difference between this game and Lylat Wars. In Lylat Wars, the alternate paths were determined by things you had to do by skill. Flying through hoops on Corneria, or avoiding all the searchlights on Zone S, or destroying the Sector X boss before it kills Slippy. Those are all things that you probably won't be able to do on your first try. They're things that require you to get good at the game to actually pull off. In this game though, the alternate paths are actually kind of arbitrarily locked off until you complete the main story mission. Like in here, you couldn't get to that portal unless you unlock the Gravmaster, which doesn't happen until a couple of levels after this. And a similar thing happens with the rest of the alternate paths in this game. They're actually just fairly simple to get. It's just a matter of unlocking them first, by playing through the game. I guess this increases the accessibility of these missions by allowing anyone to get through it regardless of skill level. Well, I still would have preferred, you know, the old way of doing it. Anyway, new high score! Woohoo!
Peppy, I'm glad to see you. Are you all right?
Fox, get out of here! Don't come any closer!
Whoa! Don't get sucked in!
What's happening? Stay calm, Fox. Shoot the glowing spot.
Thanks, I think I'm free!
Oh snap,
No
here
time
is
to
a
celebrate.
boss!
We've got a
It's a
fight
giant
on our
worm
hands.
with big, giant, obvious weak spots on it.
Analyze.
Like really obvious, just tacked on red dots on him, like they're not even part of his body. What the hell? Anyway, this boss is fairly self-explanatory. Shoot the weak spots and then that makes his mouth vulnerable, and then you can shoot the inside of his mouth when it opens up. My only issue with this is that, like the Aquarosa Boss, the game locks you in target view, so the top screen is always focused on the boss, while you have to use the cockpit view on your gamepad to actually see where you're aiming, and not only that, to actually tell which direction you're facing, because it's kind of hard to tell when you're zoomed out this far. And now the boss is burrowing away, and look, we're not in target mode anymore. We have this regular third-person mode, but oh no, now we've got to lock on the camera. Again, I think that's kind of dumb. Also, unlocking the Gravmaster means that the suck move doesn't affect you at all. You can just hover in the air and you won't get sucked in, so you can just make that fight really easy. Note how I'm using the cockpit view to aim sideways while aiming my vehicle in a particular direction, which allows me to run circles around this monster while aiming. I do think that's pretty neat, being able to aim independently of where you are facing. In Star Fox Assault, I would have just had to like aim and then like barrel roll to side strafe and then slowly turn around. So in this game it feels a lot more natural. And we took him out with ease. No problem.
Welcome back, Peppy.
Thanks, you guys.
Still alive, old-timer?
Take it easy. You're not a young bunny anymore.
This old hair ain't ready for retirement yet.
Guys, we're not actually moving, it's just the floor texture that's moving. What the hell? Again, I do like how it records the high score for each individual level. I'm more of a fan of the arcade mode because I like that old Star Fox 64 style of things. But being able to play each individual level is good because it means you can practice the levels you're weaker on, and then finally put them to the test when you do an arcade style run.
Andross has launched missiles from Fichina. They're currently passing through Sector Gamma. You need to stop them before they reach their destination.
Moving out.
Good luck.
Star Fox, we've located one of Andross's portals. He's using it as a wormhole to launch a surprise missile attack.
Enemy missiles ahead. Destroy them before they enter the portal.
That them?
Nothing like a challenge. Let's
Okay,
take
so
them
this
down.
is a fairly simple mission at first glance. You have to destroy the missiles before they reach the portal. You're actually given a fair amount of time before they reach the portal. But if you remember from when I played the Titania level in Lylat Wars, my strategy for getting the high score was to just farm the enemies around it until I was pretty much out of time and then go for the objective. You can't really do that in this one though, because you gain hit plus 30 for each of the missiles, and that time bonus actually reduces quite quickly. Like, if you don't take him out relatively quick, you only get hit plus 10, and then like eventually you don't get any bonus points at all unless you're really late. Rob64 does warn you when the missiles are getting closer to the thing, because he says like distance 100, distance 50, and so on. And when he starts saying that, that means your time bonus is actually in danger, not just, you know, you're close to losing the level. So you have to actually be quick. Getting the high score in this is a combination of shooting a lot of enemies and also being quick on destroying the main objectives. And I think that's actually good, because it seems like it's designed to stop people like me from exploiting the system and just farming enemies all the time and waiting to the last minute to complete the mission. Well, here's another one of those missiles. If it gets to the Great Flocks, it unleashes drones, and you have to remove the drones from the Great Flocks and stop it from exploding. And when that happens, it's actually quite hard to do the mission, because you have to both go for the missiles quickly and stop the Great Flocks from dying. It does actually explode quite quickly if you don't get rid of all the drones. In fact, the first time playing this game, I had to redo this mission a few times because I kept failing it by running out of time with the missiles or having the Great Fox explode.
I'll deal with the pests.
Whoops, lost my hyper lasers. Yeah, this game works a bit differently than other Star Fox games. Normally, if you get hit in the wings too much, you get wing damage, and then your wing breaks off, and then your ship doesn't handle as well, and then you go back to single lasers. This game handles it a bit differently. You no longer get wing damage at all. Your wings cannot break off. Instead, you lose hyper lasers if you take a certain amount of damage, so it works a bit more like a conventional arcade power-up system. No matter how much damage you take, though, you'll always keep your double lasers at least, so that's good. Okay, now the warhead is exploding, and you do have to fly away from it before it explodes, otherwise it just instantly kills you. First time I played that mission, I did kind of get killed instantly by the explosion because I didn't realise that. It does take out the enemies around it though, and they actually add to your point score, I think, which is cool. But yeah, you notice there, that missile we just destroyed only gave us hit plus 10. That's how quick you need to be, you know? You have to take care of these objectives fairly quickly. Don't get too distracted by the enemies, no matter how tempting those points seem. You gotta be quick. And yeah, that's pretty much this mission, really. If the Great Fox gets drones attached to it, it can get a bit hectic, but generally it's not too bad.
That's all of them. I think we're in the clear.
Now we got mission accomplished here instead of regular mission complete. You get mission accomplished in this mission for making sure the Great Fox takes no damage from any of the drones or anything like that.
Not too shabby, Fox.
Unlike in Star Fox 64, getting mission accomplished doesn't mean you go on an alternate route. It's just like an extra achievement type thing of completing the mission with a special requirement or doing a special objective to get that accomplished. And yep, nowhere near my high scores. A bit too slow in those missiles, I think.
Moments before being cut off, our base here confirmed the existence of a massive enemy weapon.
We'll go check it out.
Good luck.
Spread out and take them down one by one.
Alright, so the first thing we have to do is destroy a bunch of enemies. That's literally it. Our objective is to destroy 30 enemies. You notice immediately we killed an enemy that gave us a double laser power up. You notice that unlike in Star Fox 64, for most missions you don't keep your laser power ups from previous levels. When you start a new mission you immediately go back to single lasers. I think the reason they did this was because, again, like the game was sort of designed with the ability to play a mission individually in mind, and having you start off with single lasers every time makes it easier to sort of compare high scores on a single playthrough of a single level. Something else that's different from Star Fox 64 is the rate of fire when you fire your laser beams. They fire much quicker now. It's sort of like an auto-fire machine gun now, rather than the sort of single shots they took in the original game. I mean, if you held the button down for a brief period in Star Fox 64, it would fire 3 lasers quickly. But if you were quick on pressing the A button, you could mash the fire button and you could fire a lot quicker. In this game, the burst fire is so quick that it's actually faster to actually hold the button briefly, rather than mash the button like in the old games. There seems to be then that the game's rewarding you for accurate aiming rather than how quickly you can mash the button. And hey, that's all 30 enemies destroyed. You get an extra 5 bonus points for that.
I'm on your tail, you impudent little fox.
And then Leon decides to appear.
This day just keeps getting better and better.
So yeah, not only does destroying 30 enemies give you 5 bonus points, it also lets you fight Leon who comes around. And you can kill him for even more points. If you don't get all 30 enemies within the time limit, then Leon doesn't show up, and it just immediately goes to the next phase of the mission. And yeah, like in Star Fox 64, having hyper lasers just makes these fights pretty trivial, really. Well, I did just lose my hyper lasers, but not to worry, he's nearly dead.
Jeez Louise, what is that?
Shut up, Slippy.
Enemy drones!
That's quite a swarm. Brace yourselves.
Time to take this fight to the ground. Rob, deploy the Landmaster.
The Landmaster has been equipped with a new function. You can now transform and fly for as long as the boost meter allows.
So yeah, this is the part of the game where you unlock the ability to use the Gravmaster. Once you play this mission, you can go back to Titania and use the Gravmaster to access the secret routes. Now you have to destroy the spider drones.
Fearless leader.
You have to shoot them on the underside where the weak spot is, but then once you hit them there, they flip around so the weak spot's on the top, so then you have to sort of use the Gravmaster mode to shoot them from above after you hit them from the bottom. Alternatively, you can lock onto them because the missiles actually do a pretty decent job at hitting their weak spots when they're above. And right now you're noticing that I'm aiming using the 3D crosshair in vehicle mode. Like I said, you can play the game without using the cockpit view for the most part. If you need to be accurate and hit specific targets at a long range, you do need to use cockpit view though. And the reason for that is that the green crosshair is only really effective at a closer range. This was also the case in Star Fox 64, but because the draw distance of the game was actually a lot smaller than this game, and all the environments were a lot smaller, you never really ran into that issue.
Hey! You guys see what I'm seeing?
What is that?
Think that's the mothership?
Enemy shield analyzed.
Alright, so here's the boss of the level. Although the spider drones are still about, so it's worth trying to finish them off for the extra points. You also have the flying enemies around, and they are normally worth points, but once the boss spawns, you don't get any more points for them. Like, there's this weird cutoff point where the flying enemies are no longer worth points. This happens in a few parts of the game where once the boss spawns, the adds around the boss no longer count towards your hit counter. Probably because they want you to focus on the boss rather than taking out all the adds around it. Like on Sector Beta, for example, once Star Wolf appears, shooting the flying enemies around them don't count towards your hit counter anymore. So it sort of creates a situation where if you're trying to aim for the high score, you have to be quick to destroy the enemies before the boss appears or before the next phase of the mission happens. And again, this is another thing where the game seems to be rewarding you for completing objectives quickly rather than just farming enemies, which I think makes more sense, because then you can focus on the big boss when it appears. And you want to take out the boss relatively quickly, so make sure you get that hit plus 10 bonus. Anyway, it's a good thing this boss has really obvious red glowing weak spots. Just take out the leg. Oh,
It's down! Quick, shoot the weak points on top!
yeah, what Peppy said. Shoot the legs and then shoot the weak spots on the top, and then you're good. This boss is actually kind of cool. It sort of reminds me of the second boss of Star Fox Assault, where you're in the Landmaster tank and you have to get on top of the giant Asteroid monster and shoot its weak spot on the top. Also, note how we're not forced to be in target view. I'm locking onto the boss now by holding on the lock-on button, but if I wanted to, I could let go of the lock-on button and have the normal third-person camera. I don't know why the other bosses force you to be in the target view mode. It doesn't really make much sense. I suppose with this boss there are more enemies around, so it's important to know what's around you, but even so, I still think it would have been better to give you the option to look in front of you in third-person mode rather than forcing it to be in target view. Speaking of the enemies, I do like how the enemies behave in all-range mode. They added a bit more variation compared to Star Fox 64. Before, in all-range mode, the only way an enemy would attack you is by chasing you from behind. In this game though, there's enemies that shoot you from the front using these purple homing lasers, and you have to see the shots coming and barrel roll. But they also have these enemies that fly in front of you and then drop fire bombs that cause pillars of fire to shoot up, and then you have to like turn to avoid the fire if you manage just to drop the bomb. These enemies actually behave differently if you're in the Landmaster or in Walker mode. They'll try to hit you directly with the bomb. Apparently one of the things they tried to improve on when they delayed the game for 4 months was the enemy AI. And I don't know how it was before the delay, but it works pretty well now, so I quite like it. Anyway, we've nearly beaten this boss. We just need to hit the giant weak spot on the top a few more times, and uh-oh, oh god, get out of there, go faster, go. Whew, that was a close one. That was almost a fox sandwich. Also notice how the tank cannon actually works differently to the laser beams of the Arwing. It doesn't sort of do the rapid fire burst fire. A single button press fires one tank shot. So you do have to mash the button sort of fast in order to be effective with the tank. And for this mission you get mission accomplished by destroying all the spider drones before you defeat the boss.
Report. I don't think they liked us.
No rest for the best.
All peachy for me.
you probably noticed already, but you get bonus points for each of the teammates you keep alive, which is proportional to how much health they have. So it's not like in Star Fox 64 where so long as you keep them alive you'll get the medal. No, you want to keep these alive even after you've earned the medal for the stage. Making sure that you help them when they're in trouble and making sure they're at full health is something you have to keep in mind when you're trying to do a score run. Even so, I'm not entirely sure how they get damaged in this mission. I think that the boss damages them over time, so you have to defeat the boss quickly. But yeah, if they call for help, make sure you go and help them, because they are worth valuable points. And now we're on to Sector Omega, which is possibly my favourite mission of the game.
The quickest route to Venom is through a treacherous debris field. Keep your wits about you.
You don't have to worry about us.
This is the point where all the different routes converge. No matter which route you take, you'll always go to this point and onwards. So the rest of this game is linear from this point. There's no alternate paths.
All units, G diffuser set to max. We're going top speed.
Strap yourselves in, boys and girls. This is one hell of a ride.
Let me show you how it's really done.
Yeah! Full speed ahead!
Stay sharp! We can't afford any mistakes!
So this is the final rush towards Venom, and holy crap, it's super fast! You gotta be quick on this mission.
Use the brake!
When I first played this game, I was not expecting this. This just comes out of nowhere and it's super intense and you're just like, holy shit, what's even happening?
Fox, pull up! Pull up!
Watch out!
Incoming from behind.
I'm going left.
If you're trying to go for a high score run, you have to be pretty precise here. You have to know what's coming and pretty much react to it instantly. And you have to be a pretty good aim as well. And firing charge shots at just the right time.
I'll take the right.
Mind the rotation there!
Did Venom just disappear?
What? I wasn't expecting that.
Everyone still with us?
Are you guys seeing this too? What's going on?
Ow. Okay, we can calm down a bit.
I'm getting dizzy.
Look alive! Threat coming from above! Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm afraid this way doesn't lead to Venom. This way only leads to your annihilation.
Switching to all range mode.
Gee, what a new and original boss, Nintendo. How long did it take you to come up with this one?
Here it comes.
Hey, Slim, where's that shield analysis?
Keep your ears on. I'm having some technical difficulties.
See, one of the things I don't like about Star Fox Zero is the fact that it is taking so much stuff from Star Fox 64 in an attempt to nostalgia bait people. Like, I feel like it lacks its own identity and stuff. Having said that, I will give the game some credit. This sequence did hit me pretty hard. I was not expecting the attack carrier, and I certainly wasn't expecting this music to be playing as part of the boss as well. I don't mind the occasional throwbacks like this. I do also like how, even though the boss is sort of the same thing you've seen before, it does kind of play differently. You're in all range modes. You can play it the normal way by shooting its weak spots once the parts open up, or you can just aim at the little struts that connect the parts and just shoot them off. this guy actually puts up more of a fight as well, because when he opens up, he sometimes spawns enemies, like, you know, like he normally does, except the enemies here actually pose a threat, because he fires lots of them, and they chase you quite aggressively. But luckily I managed to take them out before he could summon any more ads. Also notice how we only got hit +6 for destroying that part. For the other two parts, we had only got hit +8. That's how quickly the time bonus disappears for some of these things.
Now, let the true fight begin.
If I manage to have hyper lasers at this point, then it's possible to maintain the full time bonus. But you might have noticed that the game only gave me one laser power-up, and that's because the game spawns a second one if you manage to, I think, destroy all those sword blade enemies in the max speed section. Unfortunately, I wasn't pro enough to get them this time.
How dare you!
Anyway, as you can see, this guy has a few more tricks up his sleeve, but we've pretty much won this fight. We just have to shoot the parts inside when he opens up.
Time to chat. We gotta go.
Sorry to jet, but I'm in a hurry. So we got mission complete there. You can get mission accomplished by completing that super fast max speed section without taking any damage. And that's actually a lot harder than it sounds. I do wish that max speed section was longer, but it's one hell of a ride while it lasts. No one even says anything, they just leave. Guess they're not really sure what to do next now that Venom's just disappeared. What could this mean?
So, Venom has disappeared. However, there is still a way to get to Andross.
What? How?
There's no time to explain. Return to Corneria immediately.
Copy that. On our way.
See, that kind of doesn't make sense to me. There's no time to explain. Quick, travel across the entire Lylat system. Like, surely you could explain while we were getting there. It would take a while for us to get from there to Corneria, surely. Anyway, here is the sort of final actual level. It's Corneria again.
I cannot establish contact with General Pepper.
All units, head for the tower. Heads up! Enemy fighters incoming!
I can take care of these guys.
So yeah, this is literally the same Corneria level again. It's the first level, exact same layout. Except there are a lot more enemies this time. Lots more enemies, and it's actually kind of a hard level to do well on. There's lots of things that try and shoot you down, so you've got to be careful here.
Thanks for the friendly fire, Fox.
Here's an instance where having the blue charge shot works in your favor, because the only way to capture that entire group of enemies in a single shot was to time it so that you get the blue charge shot. One of a few instances where you have to get the timing down just right to get the maximum amount of points. This level sort of acts like Area 6 in the fact that there are just loads of enemies coming at you. And again, going a high score means you have to kind of practice this level in order to, you know, get all the enemies as they appear. And I didn't talk about this when we were playing Corneria on the first level earlier, but like the Corneria in Star Fox 64, this has a few sort of secret areas, and flying through them sometimes summons extra enemies. Behind the waterfall there's actually a hidden power-up. There's a bomb there. I don't bother getting it because I want to shoot these things down. but there are some hidden enemies in this level. I don't think there are as many secret enemies as in Star Fox 64, but still, some of them are still there.
They're on my tail! Fox, help me out here! Good going, Fox!
And here's where we would have gone if we didn't take the secret route in the first level. Also on the first level, if you go in between the gap on the left, more enemies spawn, but it doesn't happen this time.
Yikes! Where'd you come from?
Right, so there's some more secret enemies here. One of them is actually kind of cleverly hidden. First we'll just destroy these giant sword blade enemies. Luckily we have hyper lasers so that you can take them out. If you go to where that silver ring is on the left, another sword blade enemy spawns. There's also a secret enemy hidden off to the side there, and you have to be in cockpit view and look to the side in order to actually see it. If you're in the regular vehicle mode, you can't see it because it's outside of the camera, so you have to turn in the
General
cockpit
Pepper,
view.
please respond. Come on.
This is bad! Fighters are pouring from the sky!
All this attention makes a guy feel loved.
Alright, so now we're in this all-range mode and you have to take out 30 enemies within time limit, and you don't actually have that much time. It's tempting to go for the giant battleship because those are worth 3 points each, but they actually take a while to destroy, and you kind of want to actually focus the time on taking out smaller enemies because they still only count as one enemy and towards your 30 hit count. Nothing really bad happens if you don't reach the 30 kill count within the time limit. Except you miss out on bonus points, which is bad. In this case, I'm trying to be fast in taking out these enemies to get the bonus points, so I'm using charge shots, because that's generally quicker than aiming manually. The downside to this is shooting them down manually means you don't get the bonus hit +1 that you get when you shoot and blow up a downed enemy. So that's kind of a way that the game actually discourages you from sort of abusing the lock-on to shoot all the enemies.
Let's show those monkeys who's
But in this
boss.
case, because I have to actually be kind of fast, I am using the lock-on just to, be more efficient. You notice that in this all-range mode, your camera is zoomed out a bit more. It's sort of akin to the zoomed-out camera you have in Star Fox 64. So enemies that are tailing you and trying to chase you down are actually visible on the camera in this view. You also get a little indicator at the bottom of the screen whenever you're being chased. Whoops, I hit the building. But we got the bonus point, so hooray!
Well done. Now, hurry, Fox. We have to act immediately.
General.
We decommissioned this teleporter, but Andross has somehow taken control of it. It leads straight to Venom. The danger it poses is unthinkable. Follow me. Let's finish this.
I'm picking up huge energy readings. Watch out!
What's that thing doing here?
Oh no, it's something we would have seen if we didn't go along the secret route earlier after Corneria. Pretend you've seen this before and act surprised.
Gigarilla.
Yeah, the gorilla returns like we've seen it before.
Keep your distance from that thing.
Okay, so here's how you defeat this. Flying between its legs, shoot its weak spot on the back. That's it. In walker mode, it can't really do much to you so long as you keep running in between his legs, so yeah. This is the quick way of doing it. You can also destroy the weapons he has on his arms and that glowing bit on his chest. But you only really need to do that if you're trying to find a medal. You get a medal for destroying all the parts of the boss before you defeat him. Most of the main missions in the game have 5 medals each. There's the usual medal for getting a certain score in a level. There's another medal for getting mission accomplished by completing various objectives like this one of destroying all its body parts. You can also just find medals scattered around the level, or by just fulfilling certain objectives or collecting hidden like emblems or coins that create a whole medal. So there's more things to do when you replay these missions again. If you're trying to collect all the medals like I did, this game will probably take you a while. Some of the medals are really obscure as well. I had to look up a guide for the last few, and I have no shame in doing so because some of those medals are bullshit. And that's that mission done. I'm not sure how to feel about the fact that they reused the entire first level again. I would have liked to see a new level layout, you know? But the fact that there are way more enemies and the enemy placement is different does, you know, make it a new experience, so... I mean, I don't want to make excuses for Nintendo. Damn you, Nintendo, for being so lazy.
So, you must be James McCloud's son, eh?
Could you at least try to lip-sync these characters?
Andross! Andross?
Well, I was wondering when you'd show up.
Look! The portal is closing!
I'm going it alone. Fox! Go! Fox!
Fox!
Fox! Also notice that giant hologram of Andross has a body. This is the first time I think we've officially seen Andross with a body and he's not just a floating disembodied head. Once you complete arcade mode once, you unlock the sound test. And in the sound test menu you can look at the 3D character models of all the characters and you can actually see the full model of Andross with a body. He just looks like some weird space wizard.
Fox, do you copy?
General, mind explaining what's going on?
So, this is a weird part of the plot. They decide to add some like further intrigue here, talking about the fact that Andross was banished because we were messing with like teleporter technology. It's a bit of a weird thing to add here. It seems to imply there's like some kind of moral ambiguity about what they've done. Like they banished Andross by using the teleporters that they were working on. And this is all well and good, except none of this really matters. None of this really plays into the overall story at all, and introducing it now, pretty much at the last level, seems really weird. You can't even skip this part. This is just kind of dumb. You just have to listen to General Pepper talk about this thing the entire time. I don't mind like adding some moral ambiguity to Andross, like having him not entirely be the bad guy and maybe having other people being at fault, but again, this doesn't go anywhere. Andross is still just a crazy man trying to take over the entire galaxy and whatever. I don't feel it really adds anything, is my point.
So Venom itself was one huge teleportation device. Surely something here can lead us to Andross. Hurry, Fox. Time is critical.
So yeah, this is Planet Venom. It's now a really tiny Mario Galaxy-sized planetoid. It's literally, it's like a really small planet. It's not even a planet, it's like a tiny Death Star. What the hell? This isn't a planet. First of all, there are these gun turrets that are placed around, and I'm just going to exploit the splash damage bonus point thing and just farm them for points in order to get the high score for this level. While I do that, I do want to talk about the controls a bit more, because again, I do think there are ways that this surpasses the original N64 game. This game uses the left and right analog sticks to control the Arwing. Using the left stick controls its, pitch and turn as usual, but the right stick is used to control the ship. Moving up and down on the right stick means you boost and brake, and moving left and right on the right analog stick tilts your ship. And double tapping the left or double tapping right makes you barrel roll. You can also barrel roll by flicking the right analog stick in a direction really quickly, which actually works pretty well. It's actually kind of awkward to double tap at first, because it's not something I'm used to, but soon you kind of get used to it, and in the end I actually think this works a lot better, because I just think it feels easier using the analog sticks, and the fact that the fire buttons are on the shoulder triggers now that frees up the face buttons for other things, such as like doing somersaults. Like in this game, you can do the somersault by just pressing X instead of using boost and up at the same time. You can do it the old way as well, but it's just easier and more precise using the face buttons to do it, I think. Being able to boost and brake with the right analog stick and having the fire button put onto the right trigger also makes it easier to brake and shoot at the same time, which is great if you want to slow down, specifically to shoot a bunch of enemies that you would normally fly past in like a scrolling mission. Now Star Fox Assault actually set the brake button to the L trigger, so this wasn't really an issue, but in Star Fox 64 specifically, like you can't really brake and shoot at the same time because brake was like down on the C buttons, and you also had to somehow hold that and press the A button, which was also a face button. So unless you had two thumbs, it was kind of hard to pull off, or you had to use like the claw method. And the N64 controller was a weird design to begin with anyway, so holding that in a claw position, I can't even imagine, that would be weird. The one thing I'm not entirely a fan of is actually the walker mode. The walker mode sort of controls completely different to the Arwing, and it takes a bit of getting used to. Once you get used to it, it's fine because you immediately know what to expect, but when you first transform into the walker, it kind of controls weirdly. The left stick no longer controls the direction you're facing, except for left and right. Now moving forward and back on the left analog stick moves you forward and back, which is a new concept that's completely different to the Arwing. Locking onto the enemy using the target view also changes the controls by allowing you to strafe, and in some ways that's actually easier, but again, it's just another thing you kind of have to keep in mind when you are trying to play the game. The beauty of the Landmaster in Star Fox 64, and I guess in this game, is that even though it's a completely different vehicle, it still kind of controls the same as the Arwing did in the on-rail sections. That's no longer so much the case in this game. It's not a huge deal, but I do think it hurts that sort of arcade-style action that I loved about the original Star Fox 64. Incidentally, I haven't actually mentioned the other vehicle you can get in this game. We haven't seen it at all. It's the Gyro Wing. The Gyro Wing is a slow-moving helicopter drone that you use on the Zone S mission, and it controls completely differently to any other vehicle. It controls sort of like a remote-controlled drone, as it should, I suppose, but it plays so differently from the rest of the game. Like, the level that you go on with the Gyro Wing is like this really slow stealth mission where you have to avoid the searchlights on Zone S. And when I'm doing an arcade-style run, it just completely kills the pacing for me. That's why I always avoid it whenever I do arcade mode. It's like playing Sonic Adventure 2 and having fun with the Sonic stages, and then suddenly having to play a Knuckles stage and look for crystals. It sucks.
That's as far as you go, Star Fox. I do hope you like our new toys.
You're even dumber than your old man!
You think Andross has time to waste on vermin like you? Star Wolf, why am I not surprised?
Alright, time for the showdown with Star Wolf, and now they can transform too. And it's 4 against 1. The odds are against us, but we do have hyper lasers, so that's good. Now, I did complain that Venom being a tiny planet didn't really make much sense, but it does make for a good battle arena. I'll have to give it that much. Those gun turrets would have been a bit annoying during this fight, but we took them all out, so we can just focus on these guys. You notice that there are these trenches running along the entirety of the planet, and every now and again the team will fly into the trenches, and you can chase them down the trenches, and if you go into cockpit view, it literally looks like the fucking Death Star trench run. This is great. I have you now. There's really no reason for them to fly in there, but the fact that they do that and you can just sort of pull that off organically without any kind of like scripted event is great. I think that works really well, and I think this boss fight is another highlight of the game for me. This boss fight is also fairly strict on the old time bonus. You get hit plus 30 for each one you kill, but you have to make sure you do it quickly because that time bonus goes away pretty fast. That's why it's important to have these hyper lasers, because they really make short work of these guys. See, Leon just sounds so sad when I killed him. He doesn't sound like he's died. He just sounds like someone's stolen his favorite toy.
Bested by a fox. Impossible.
Alright, it's just me and you, Porkins.
Yeah, I get it. Now leave me alone.
something I literally only just noticed. You can only carry 5 bombs at once, but if you pick up an extra bomb, you get hit +3. Just like the laser power-ups. So, it's nice that they give you an incentive to pick up power-ups even if you're already at maximum capacity.
I'm coming for you, Andross.
We're all counting on you.
Alright, so now we're in this weird, tricky tunnel. This is just a straight-up maze, and unlike in Star Fox 64, where you could pick any direction and you still get to Andross, you have to memorize the correct location to go. If you don't pick the right direction, you end up being teleported all the way back to the start of the maze. There's only 4 forks in the road, it's quite easy to remember. It's right, left, left, right, so it's not too hard to remember. Actually, it's just occurred to me, I haven't explained what the gold rings do yet. In this game, the gold rings act a bit differently. In Star Fox 64, they replenish your health, and also collecting 3 gold rings increased your health bar. In this game though, the gold rings replenish your health, and also collecting 3 of them gives you an extra life. Now, in the main game mode, you can collect the lives, but in arcade mode, you can only hold 3 gold rings at a time, which means you essentially only can carry 1 life at a time. If I died, I would lose these 3 gold rings, and I would have to collect another 3 gold rings in order to get that life back. If I died before getting those other 3 rings, game over. You have to start the entirety of arcade mode all over again. This tunnel does have a lot of gold rings in it though, because we are approaching the final boss.
If you go any farther, there'll be no turning back.
Oh, hi James McLeod, how's it going? If you keep going the wrong direction in that maze earlier, James McLeod eventually just shows you the way, but if you manage to do it without any help from James McLeod, you get the bonus medal.
It seems you're determined to see this through. Very well. Follow me, Fox.
Dad!
I've been waiting for you, Star Fox. With my mighty intellect, the universe shall soon be mine to command as I see fit. Opposing me is truly a death sentence. Just ask your father.
Okay, here's the final fight with Andross. This goes through a few phases. First of all, he tries destroying you with these laser pillars. Just fly up and down to avoid them. And then you have to get inside. And to get inside, you have to find where the blue highlighted platform is in cockpit mode. That only glows through the cockpit view. And that platform is the one that has a gap that allows you to get in. So just fly towards there and get inside and then beat up Andross and his giant monkey face.
Trust your view from the cockpit, Fox.
Well, Pepper's got you eating out of his paws, just like your father, hasn't he?
So once you enter here, Andross automatically forces you to go into walker mode and you have to shoot the weak spots in his hands to hurt him. Again, this is where you really have to know how to aim with the gyroscope controls in order to defeat this guy. You've also noticed he's sort of transformed into this weird robot face. I guess this is sort of like a combination of his realistic Star Fox 64 face and the old sort of polygonal weird robot man face from the original SNES Star Fox game. I kinda like it. Although as someone pointed out, it does have the unfortunate effect of making him look like a Michael Bay Transformer. Like, you could put that face onto Megatron and he'd probably look about normal. And once you blow up one of his hands, you have to quickly get out before he summons more laser beams, because if you're still inside when that happens, he does a lot of damage to you. And again, this boss fight still kinda comes out of nowhere in the context of like the story. I mean, Andross, as far as I know, is a scientific genius. Where in his scientific degree does it say you can transform into a giant monkey face?
Is that really how you want to live your life, boy?
Now, I'm making this boss look really easy, but on my first try, it took me bloody ages to get past this boss. I died like 5 times trying to beat this guy, because I didn't know how to avoid his attacks, and also, I guess I wasn't as proficient as aiming with the gyro controls at this point. But once you get the aiming down, you know, it's kind of a piece of cake, really. He does have certain... Like, this one took me a while to get, because it's actually kind of hard to aim while he's pulling you in with the tractor beam. And if you get pulled in by the tractor beam and into his hand, he like picks you up and throws you, and that does a lot of damage. But it's okay, guys, everything's cool. We've disarmed him. Yeah, sorry about that. Next time I feel like making a terrible pun, feel free to give me a hand.
You claim to fight for peace, but have you any idea what that really means?
See, that's another line that seems to be adding some kind of moral ambiguity to the characters, but they never develop upon it. Andross is still evil, crazy man trying to take over the galaxy. If Andross had some other kind of agenda, then that line might have actually meant something, but for now it just seems kind of like this weird throwaway line. So yeah, now Andross has no hands, he has different attacks, and you have to shoot him in the mouth when it opens up. If you shoot his eyes, his eyelids react, but it doesn't actually do any damage and it doesn't stun him at all, so it's just kind of a weird thing that happens. Like, shooting him in the eyes makes him visibly flinch a little bit, but it doesn't actually affect his movement or like vulnerability at all. It doesn't damage him in the slightest. And of course, it wouldn't be Andross if he didn't shoot tiles out of his mouth. Okay, once you stunned him, you have to fly behind him and shoot the weak spot, which is conveniently positioned on the back of his head. That's it. If you manage to do that again, we'll be home free. I suppose everyone knows now that the Walker is actually an unused idea from Star Fox 2, which was an unreleased game for the Super Nintendo, and was originally supposed to be the sequel to the SNES Star Fox game. Instead, they decided to cancel that and make Star Fox 64. But everyone knows that already. The Walker would probably look less stupid if it didn't sidestep in such a stupid way. It sort of hobbles to the side. If they increased the length of his sidesteps, that would have looked a bit better, I think. I actually died the first time I got to this bit, because by the time I finally managed to beat Andross, I had no health, and I was escaping, and you have to avoid his attacks by basically moving away from where he's facing, except the controls are reversed, because the controls are proportional to the cockpit view, and not this backwards view. So pressing left on the analog stick actually makes you go right, because that's the direction you're moving on the cockpit view, which is what you're seeing on the gamepad.
You have to make it back to your friends, Fox.
Dad!
Curse you, James McCloud! Why won't you stay dead?
See, I like that moment. Andross turns around when he responds to James McCloud, and that gives you a chance to do the U-turn and shoot Andross in the weak spot to finish him off. Doing so gives you an extra 10 points, and in mission accomplished.
Fox, you're all right! Way to go!
That was some fine work out there.
Is something wrong, Fox?
No, nothing. Nothing's wrong.
New high score for Planet Venom. Hooray! Now that I know that collecting extra bombs gives you extra points, I can get even higher scores. And I wasn't anywhere near my high score, not even for this route, so there's a lot of practice that needs to be done before I perfect this run. And now here's the final cinematic, which is pretty much shot by shot a recreation of the original N64 ending cinematic, except with new, advanced, super visuals in 60 frames per second. I mentioned in Lylat Wars that the whole thing with James McCloud appearing at the end is kind of ambiguous. Fox McCloud was the only one who acknowledged James, and it wasn't exactly clear if he was real or not. In this game, it's a bit less ambiguous because Andross actually responds to James McCloud. He seems to see James McCloud and respond to him, so it's definitely not just the case where James McCloud is just a ghost or figment of Fox McCloud's imagination. He had to have actually been there for Andross to have also seen him. Of course, them having introduced this weird concept of alternate dimensions and teleporters pretty much in the last scene does raise some more questions, so I guess we'll never know the true mystery of whether or not James McCloud is still alive. I mean, Andross seems to imply he's still alive, because he says, "Curse you, James McCloud, why won't you stay dead?" Which implies he's still alive. Even though everyone keeps saying he's dead, that one line seems to imply James McCloud is still alive. But then the planet also just exploded, so who knows? I guess we'll never find out, unless they make a direct sequel to this. Although, that might not happen, because apparently, from what I understand, this game has not sold very well. Apparently it's like the worst selling Star Fox game in the series. And that's saying something, because Star Fox Command only sold about 500,000 units in total. So, yeah, things aren't looking good for Star Fox. That's actually kind of a shame, to be honest, because I think this game's pretty great. I mean, it's not perfect. As I've mentioned, I have some criticisms about it, but I definitely think it's worth your time if you're a fan of Star Fox, or arcade-style games in general. At least it doesn't have a terrible story like Star Fox Command does.
Star Fox, we are forever in your debt. There's a place for you in the Cornerian army, if you want it.
Sorry, General. We like doing things our own way.
The Great Fox is ready to go.
Ready to go!
Star Fox, move out!
And they all just run off. They all just leave immediately. And just leave General Pepper there. He doesn't even get a chance to react or retort. What a bunch of jerks. I do like the fact that they added the walkers to this bit when they're running along the cliffside. You know, having them just run in the middle of nowhere didn't really make much sense to me. So this bit, slightly more believable. It's still a bit weird why they don't just get up and fly, but hey, it makes for a cool image as they're running along, heroes in the sunset, sort of a Wild West kind of theme as well. It kind of looks pretty cool. I've seen quite a few people complain about the graphics of this game, and honestly I don't think it looks that bad. I think it looks pretty good at parts. It's not like a technical masterpiece, and it's not running in a full 1080p, it's running at 720, but it runs at a mostly consistent 60 frames per second, and I just think it's got a pretty good art style. I think it works well. It might be because the game's emulating Star Fox 64 to a fault, like even the enemy models are taken from Star Fox 64, which I think is kind of a mistake because some of those enemies don't look great. And I don't think it was really necessary for the gold and silver rings to retain like the polygonal models, rather than like Star Fox Adventures and Star Fox Assault, which had smooth gold and silver rings. But hey, I guess they were going for a specific art style for some reason. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm just too used to the old Dreamcast games or something. Maybe I need to get a PS4 and inject graphics into my eyes to see it, but I don't know. Tell me what you guys think. Well, the important thing is that we've saved the day, and Andross has been defeated, and our heroes ride off into the sunset, onwards onto whatever adventures await them in the future. Hopefully it won't be another 10 bloody years for the next Star Fox game. So, yeah, I really like Star Fox Zero. I mean, there are things that I don't like about it. I've mentioned before that I don't like how it emulates Star Fox 64 so closely. I think it lacks its own identity. I don't think it needed to take entire lines of dialogue and enemy designs from the old games. I think that was a mistake. I mean, say what you will about Star Fox Assault. At least that seemed like it was trying to do its own thing. That seemed like it was trying to move the series in a new direction, whilst retaining the old arcade-style roots. With this game, it seems like they wanted to recapture what made Star Fox 64 great without really knowing exactly what made it great, by just copying everything and hoping something carried over, you know? I think this game might end up being, you know, quite forgettable because of it, because of the fact that it lacks its own identity. People, a few years down the line, will people remember this game? Will it just be forever known as just a Star Fox 64 remake? I also don't like how it forces hardware gimmicks and doesn't really give you the option to turn them off or disable them. You know, you can't adjust the motion controls at all. You can't turn them off, you can't, you know, adjust the sensitivity. And I think that's kind of limiting options for players, and you're kind of reducing the player base by doing that. I also think it's slightly lacking in content. Not by much, but Star Fox 64 has 16 missions in total. Star Fox Zero has 20 missions in total, but 8 of them are short bonus missions, and only 12 of them are full-length actual levels. I would have liked to see more on-rail sections, I would have liked to see more of that. Star Fox Zero also lacks a proper expert mode like Star Fox 64 does. You can unlock the black Arwing by collecting all the medals or using the Falco amiibo, and that's sort of an expert mode, in that it gives you increased firepower, but you take 3 times the amount of damage, but it doesn't change the enemy placements or anything like that to make the game more difficult. But, you know, despite all the criticisms I've just said about the game and comparing it to Star Fox 64, I still really like this game. It has that same addictive arcade style, it builds upon the mechanics of Star Fox 64 and improves on them in so many ways. I love the new scoring system, I love the way that the ship handles, I can take or leave the motion controls, but the regular controls I really like, and it's got a great amount of replayability, and of all the things that I loved about Lylat Wars, the fact that you can replay it over and over again and try to get better each time was one of my most favourite things. And I reckon Star Fox Zero is the closest that any Star Fox game has come to replicating that feeling again. Like I said, I don't like how they took over so many things from Star Fox 64 in terms of, you know, the art style and the characters and stuff, the story. But by taking the old mechanics and refining them, that's where I think the game shines. And this game can be completed in about 2 or 3 hours, but I have sunk in about 30 or so hours of game time trying to collect all the medals and perfect my high score runs. Maybe I'm just crazy, I don't know. Maybe I should go back and finish off that backlog of games I haven't played yet, rather than playing the same game over and over again. But hell, it's really fun, and I hope I've been able to convey that to you guys in some form or another, and I hope you've enjoyed watching this.
This is one steep bill, but it's worth it.
Unfortunately, I just about missed the score threshold of 2,500 hits, because once you pass that, that's when General Pepper goes, "What?" So we didn't get the high score this time. The high score route is actually the main story route. If we didn't go on any of the alternate paths, that's the route that gives you the most points, and it's also the longest route. But that also involves going through the gyro wing stage, and I'm never a big fan of that. As I've mentioned, you can see the high score for each individual possible route, as well as the fastest time of completion, so you can speedrun it, and score attack the routes that matter to you the most. Also, you can post these scores to the Miiverse. There's a button on the gamepad that says Post to Miiverse, so you can show off your scores alongside all the penis drawings, and whatever else goes on in that crazy Miiverse of theirs. Anyway, that's pretty much it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this playthrough of Star Fox Zero. See you guys another time.